For more than 30 years, I have traveled for work. I have crossed borders on almost every continent, spent thousands of nights in hotels, navigated unfamiliar airports, and worked in places that most tourists will never see. During that time, I have seen the world change in ways that most travelers never stop to think about. The interesting part is that travel itself has become easier than ever. We can book flights from our phones, check into hotels before we arrive, translate foreign languages with artificial intelligence, pay for almost everything digitally, and carry more information in our pockets than entire travel agencies once possessed. Yet despite all of those advances, one thing has not kept pace: the way most people prepare for travel. That gap is exactly why TravRisk exists. Welcome to TravRisk. My name is Pike, and for the next few minutes, I want to challenge an assumption that most travelers never even realize they are making. The assumption is simple: if travel is easier, it must also be safer. Unfortunately, that is not how risk works. The world has not simply become more dangerous. In many ways, it has become more complicated. Technology has solved many of yesterday's problems, while quietly creating entirely new ones. Political situations change faster than ever. Weather events disrupt transportation systems around the globe. Cybercrime follows us across borders. Misinformation spreads in seconds. Organized criminals are remarkably good at identifying distracted travelers. Even something as simple as a missed flight can create a cascade of problems that most people have never considered until they are standing in an unfamiliar airport trying to figure out what to do next. The reality is that modern travel is not defined by danger. It is defined by disruption. That is a very different way of thinking. For decades, travel safety was often presented as a list of places to avoid or crimes to watch for. It was about memorizing threats. While those things still matter, they only tell part of the story. The traveler who succeeds today is not necessarily the one who knows the most facts about a destination. It is the traveler who can adapt when reality refuses to follow the itinerary. That is a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned. One of the biggest misconceptions I encounter is that experienced travelers automatically become safer travelers. That simply is not true. Experience can certainly help. It gives us perspective. It helps us recognize patterns. It makes unfamiliar situations feel less intimidating. But experience can also create overconfidence. We begin to believe that because nothing has gone wrong before, nothing is likely to go wrong this time. Psychologists have studied this tendency for years. We naturally use our previous experiences to predict future outcomes. If 20 business trips went smoothly, our brain quietly assumes the 21st probably will too. Most of the time, it is right, until it isn't. Travel has a way of reminding us that every trip is different. Every destination is different. Every airport, every hotel, every transportation system, every political situation, every weather event, and every decision exists in its own unique context. Assumptions are comfortable. Reality rarely asks permission before changing. I remember one trip that reinforced this lesson for me in a very practical way. I arrived after a long day of travel, tired, mentally drained, and eager to get to my hotel. Everything in my mind wanted to shift into autopilot. I just wanted to follow the crowd, grab transportation, check in, and relax. Fortunately, years of working in industrial safety had taught me something that applies just as well to travel. The moment you feel most eager to stop paying attention is often the moment you most need to stay engaged. So instead of rushing, I deliberately slowed myself down. I confirmed my transportation. I checked my surroundings. I made sure I knew exactly where I was going before I started moving. None of those actions took more than a few minutes, but they completely changed my mindset. Instead of reacting to the environment, I was taking control of it. Nothing dramatic happened that evening. And that is exactly the point. Good preparation often looks boring. Successful travelers rarely have exciting stories about disasters, because the small decisions they made prevented those disasters from ever developing. Unfortunately, those stories never make the news. We hear about the traveler who loses a passport. We rarely hear about the traveler who made secure digital copies before leaving home. We hear about the traveler stranded after a canceled flight. We rarely hear about the traveler who already knew their alternative routes and accommodation options. We hear about the stolen phone. We rarely hear about the traveler who had backup authentication methods, offline maps, printed contact information, and a second way to access important accounts. Preparedness is invisible, until it isn't. That idea became one of the foundational beliefs behind TravRisk. We are not trying to teach people to be afraid of traveling. Quite the opposite. We want people to travel with confidence. But there is an important distinction. There is confidence based on assumptions, and there is confidence based on capability. Those two things may look identical when everything goes according to plan. The difference only becomes obvious when something unexpected happens. The traveler whose confidence depends entirely on everything working perfectly can lose that confidence very quickly. A canceled flight, a stolen wallet, a transportation strike, a natural disaster, a cyber attack, or a political demonstration suddenly changes everything. The prepared traveler experiences the same disruption, but not the same level of uncertainty, because capability travels with you. That is why I often say that preparedness creates freedom. When you know how to solve problems, uncertainty becomes much less intimidating. You make better decisions because you have already thought about many of the possibilities. You remain calmer because you have options. You recover more quickly because you have built resilience into your travel plans before you ever left home. This way of thinking represents a significant shift from how many organizations still approach travel risk. Traditionally, travel risk management focused heavily on policies, approvals, and emergency response. Those are all important. Organizations absolutely need them. But documents alone do not prepare people. Policies do not make travelers more observant. Approval forms do not improve judgment. Emergency phone numbers do not automatically produce better decisions during stressful situations. Ultimately, every organization sends individual human beings into unpredictable environments. Those individuals make hundreds of decisions every single day. Some of those decisions matter very little. Others matter enormously. The goal should not simply be to protect people after something goes wrong. The goal should be to build travelers who are capable of preventing many situations from escalating in the first place. That philosophy influences everything we teach at TravRisk. You will notice that we spend far less time telling people what to fear than many travel safety resources. Instead, we focus on developing capability. How do you recognize changing conditions? How do you maintain awareness without becoming paranoid? How do you make better decisions under pressure? How do you reduce your dependence on technology? How do you recover when your original plan fails? Those questions matter whether you're traveling to London, Lima, Tokyo, or Toronto. Because while destinations differ, the underlying principles remain remarkably consistent. One of my favorite sayings is that every convenience creates a dependency, and every dependency creates a vulnerability. Think about how many things your phone does while you travel. It stores boarding passes. It holds your hotel reservation. It provides maps. It translates conversations. It contains your contacts. It authenticates your banking. It manages your payments. It stores your photographs. It even remembers where you parked your rental car. That is incredibly convenient, until your battery dies, or your phone is stolen, or your internet connection disappears, or a software update creates a problem at exactly the wrong moment. Technology is wonderful. Dependence is something entirely different. Prepared travelers appreciate technology without becoming captive to it. Throughout this channel, we are going to examine travel differently. We are going to analyze real incidents and ask not simply what happened, but why it happened and what we can learn from it. We are going to challenge some of the most common assumptions that travelers make. We are going to discuss practical skills that make you more capable, whether you travel once a year or every week. We will also explore how organizations can build stronger duty of care programs by developing prepared travelers, rather than simply writing more policies. Most importantly, we're going to keep coming back to one central idea. Travel is not about eliminating uncertainty. That is impossible. The objective is to become the kind of traveler who can function effectively when reality differs from expectations. That single idea has shaped my thinking after decades of international travel. It has influenced the courses we teach, the book I have written, and every conversation we have here at TravRisk. If you remember only one thing from this first video, Let it be this: travel has changed. The world is faster, more connected, more convenient, and more unpredictable than it has ever been before. The question is not whether the world will continue to change. It will. The real question is whether we are willing to change with it. Because the travelers who thrive in the years ahead will not necessarily be the ones with the most stamps in their passports or the most airline status. They will be the travelers who have learned to replace confidence based on assumptions with confidence based on capability. And that is exactly what this channel is here to help you build.